Guys, this is Devotional for Day 3, and today, Chapter 3 is titled, I Will Do It My Way, and the Burden of Self-Reliance. You say you can swing a club like Tiger Woods? That's saying a lot. You hope to score touchdowns like Joe Montana? You will have to work hard. And you, young lady, you aspire to be the next Mia Hamm. I don't know who that is. Good for you. And me? Well, actually, there is one fellow who's caught my attention. He reminds me of me. You've probably never heard of him. Did you see the British Open in 99? Yeah, the one in somewhere in Scotland. Remember the player who had a 7-stroke lead with 1 hole to go? That's right, the Frenchman. Jean Van de Velde, I think. He was 6 strokes and 480 yards away from a major championship and a place in history. All he needed to do was score a 6 on a par 4. I could shoot a 6 on a par 4. My mother could make a 6 on a par 4. This guy could shoot a 6 with a waffle iron and a banana. Tell the trophy engraver to warm up the pen and practice his V's. He will need 2 to write Jean Van de Velde. Granted, the hole was not easy. Bisected 3 times by a wee burn, the Scottish term for a marsh creek. No sweat. His 3 short shots. Putt 3 times if you have to. Just take a 6, win the hole, and smile for the cameras. Besides, it's windy, and the wee burn is wee deep. Don't flirt with it. I don't really understand. Oh, but the French love to flirt. Van de Velde pulls out his driver, and somewhere in Des Moines, an armchair duffer who'd been lured to sleep by the 7 strokes lead opens one eye. He's holding a driver? Van de Velde's caddy was a 30-year-old Parisian, I think, named Christopher, with untidy English and a paintbrush on his chin and bleached hair under his hat. I think he and we won too much show, he later confessed. Van de Velde pushes his drive halfway to the Eiffel Tower. Now he has 240 yards to the green with nothing but deep grass and heartache in between. Surely he will hit a short shot back in the fairway. Logic says, don't go for the green. Golf 101 says, don't go for the green. Every Scot in the gallery says, aye, laddie. Laddie, I don't know. Don't go for the green. Van de Velde says, I'm going for the green. He pulls out a 2-iron, and the armchair golfer in Des Moines opens the other eye. A 2-iron, maybe if you are teed up on the beach trying to hit into the Caribbean. The spectators are silent, most out of respect, a few in prayer. Van de Velde's 2-iron becomes a 4-iron. Whack, clang, and plop. The ball caroms off the bleachers and disappears into marsh tall enough to hide a lawn gnome. His lie would have made Pinocchio's nose grow. The next shot lands in the water and the next in the sand. Tally the damage, and you've got 4 strokes plus a penalty. He's lying 5 and not on the green. So much for winning the hole. By now, he's praying for a 7 and a tie. To the great relief of the civilized world, Van de Velde makes the 7. You've got to wonder if he ever recovered from the wee burn. He lost the playoff. That's a lot of golf that I don't understand. Golf, like nylon running shorts, reveals a lot about a person. What the 18th hole reveals about Van de Velde reminds me of me. I've done the same thing, the same blasted thing. All he needed was a 5-iron, but he had to go and pull out the driver. Or in my case, all I needed to do was apologize, but I had to argue. All I needed to do was listen, but I had to open my big mouth. All I needed to do was be patient, but I had to take control. All I had to do was give it to God, but I tried to fix it myself. Why don't I leave the driver in the back? I know how Christopher the caddy would answer. I think he and I and Max, we want too much show. Too much stubbornness, too much independence, too much self-reliance. I don't need advice. I can't handle this myself. I don't need a shepherd, thank you. Can you relate? Are John and I the only ones to make an anthem out of Sintara's song, I Did It My Way? Are we the only two dragging around the cast iron chests of self-reliance? I don't think so. We humans want to do things our way. Forget the easy way. Forget the common way. Forget the best way. Forget God's way. We want to do things our way. And according to the Bible, that's precisely our problem. In Isaiah 53, we all have wandered away like sheep. Each of us has gone his own way. You wouldn't think sheep would be obstinate. Of all God's animals, the sheep is the least able to take care of himself. Sheep are dumb. Have you ever met a sheep trainer? Ever seen sheep tricks? Know anyone who has taught his sheep to roll over? Ever witnessed a circus sideshow featuring sheep and his Mazadon and his jumping sheep? No. Sheep are just too dumb and defenseless. They have no fangs or claws. They can't bite you or outrun you. That's why you never see sheep as team mascots. We've heard of the St. Louis Rams and the Chicago Bulls and the Seattle Seahawks. But the New York Lambs? Who wants to be a lamb? You couldn't even stir up a decent yell for the cheerleader. What's more, sheep are dirty. A cat can clean itself, so can a dog. We see a bird in a bird bath or a bear in a river. But sheep, they get dirty and stay that way. Couldn't David have thought of a better metaphor? Surely he could have. After all, he outran Saul and outgunned Goliath. Why didn't he choose something other than sheep? How about, the Lord is my commander-in-chief, and I am his warrior. There, we like that better. A warrior gets a uniform and a weapon, maybe even a medal. Or, the Lord is my inspiration, and I'm his singer. We are in God's choir. What a flattering assignment. Or, the Lord is my king, and I'm his ambassador. Who wouldn't like to be a spokesperson for God? Everyone stops when the ambassador speaks. Everyone listens when God's minstrel sings. Everyone applauds when God's warrior passes. But who notices when God's sheep show up? Who notices when the sheep sing or speak or act? Only one person notices, the shepherd. And that is precisely David's point. When David, who was a warrior, minstrel, and ambassador for God, searched for an illustration of God, he remembered his days as a shepherd. He remembered how he lavished attention on a sheep day and night, how he slept with them and watched over them. And the way he cared for the sheep reminded him of the way God cares for us. David rejoiced to say, "The Lord is my shepherd." And in so doing, he profoundly implied, "I am his sheep." Still uncomfortable with being considered a sheep? Will you humor me and take a simple quiz? See if you succeed in self-reliance. Raise your hand if any of the following describe you. You can control your mood. You're never grumpy or sullen. You can't relate to, you are always upbeat and upright. Does that describe you? No? Well, let's try another. You are at peace with everyone. Every relationship as sweet as fudge. Even your old flames speak highly of you. love all, and are loved by all. Is that you? If not, how about this description? You have no fears. Call you the Teflon Tuffy. Wall Street plummet. No problem. Heart condition discovered. Yawn. World War III starts. What's for dinner? Does this describe you? You need no forgiveness. Never made a mistake. As square as a game of checkers. As clean as grandma's kitchen. Never cheated, never lied about cheating. Is that you? No? Let's evaluate this. You can't control your moods. A few of your relationships are shaky. You have fears and faults. Do you really want to hang on to your chest of self-reliance? Sounds to me as if you could use a shepherd. Otherwise, you might end up with a 23rd Psalm like this. I am my own shepherd. I am always in need. I stumble from mall to mall and shrink to shrink, seeking relief but never finding it. I creep through the valley of shadow of death and fall apart. I fear everything from pesticides to power lines, and I'm starting to act like my mother. I go down to the weekly staff meeting and am surrounded by enemies. I go home and even my goldfish scowls at me. I anoint my headache with extra strength Tylenol. My Jack Daniels runneth over. Surely misery and misfortune will follow me, and I will live in self-doubt for the rest of my lonely life. Why is it that the ones who most need a shepherd resist him so? Now there is a question for the Vanderbilts of life. Scripture says, do it God's way. Experience says, do it God's way. Even Scott in heaven begs, do it God's way. And every so often we do. And when we follow the lead of our God and keep the driver in the back, somehow the ball stays in the fairway. Yes, Vanderbilt reminds me of me. After losing the playoff hole, he kept his composure for the crowds. But once he sat in the scorer's tent, he buried his face in his hands. Next time I will hit Z wedge, he sobbed. You will say I'm a coward, but next time I will hit Z wedge. You and me both, John. Yeah, that chapter I don't relate as much just because I don't play golf and I'm sure I mispronounced a lot of words, so you might have trouble understanding what I read. But basically all he wanted to say was this first verse, the Lord is my shepherd, and why it is important to know that God is our shepherd, that makes us sheep, his sheep, right? And that means that we don't have to, and we really shouldn't, rely on ourselves because we can't do a lot of things. But once we have a shepherd, the shepherd takes care of us, and then we rely completely on the shepherd. So I know, especially when things are out of control, like the current situation, a lot of us want to hold on to like the little control that we have, including self-reliance. And I think this is a good time to learn and know how to let that go and give and surrender everything to the Lord, trusting that He is a good shepherd. He will take care of you. He will meet all your needs, and that all you need to do is depend on Him, right? Yeah, so it's been 3 chapters, and we only covered the first half of the first verse. So I hope you really enjoy the meditation of each word of this psalm, and that this will give you much comfort and peace you need at this time. And I'm praying for you, and I will see you tomorrow with another devotional. Bye.